Welcome everyone to your 2025 Serving Those Who Serve. My name is Steve Gill. I'm the Interim Assistant Director with your Washington Department of Veterans Affairs, but I've been with the agency a little over 20 years now. And I am a U.S. Army veteran, having come to work for WDVA. Having come to work for WDVA after leaving the Army and deciding to take those GI Bill benefits and go back to grad school. And needless to say, I found my path in public service here at WDVA, and being a veteran myself, it's really rewarding work. And one of the programs and services that is part of our Veteran Services and Counseling and Wellness team is all of the work that we do with veteran service officers around the state. So our panel discussion today, we're going to talk about collaboration with veteran service officers and how important that work is at the community level between organizations that employ veteran service officers and other veteran service providers that may or may not be veteran-centric in the services and programs that they offer. So just a few administrative announcements. I'll facilitate the panel discussion today in addition to serving as the moderator, and we always have a hometown advantage that we like to give to our local partner, in this case Yakima County. So Ray Hernandez, I'm going to have panel members introduce themselves in a minute. So Ray Hernandez with Yakima County did a great job at putting together some slides to talk about the local collaboration here in Yakima Valley. And then we're going to open up the panel discussion along the same topic and the same themes and the same types of questions. We will have questions from the audience. So this is a discussion. I'm going to get the ball rolling. We're talking to folks at the panel, talk about where they work, what they do, and then we're going to open up to your questions. We do ask that everyone use the microphones. We'll have one microphone up front for the panel and one for the audience, because we are recording and we want the recording of the discussion to pick up the audio using the microphones. With that said, I'll go ahead and we'll kick us off. So I mentioned before about the value of collaboration in veteran service officers. So let me set the stage a bit and talk about who veteran services officers are and what they do. So veteran service officers are typically employees. Sometimes they can be volunteers of nonprofit veteran service organizations, groups like the American Legion, the Disabled American Veterans, the Veterans of Foreign Wars. And they employ these service officers to help veterans apply for veterans benefits. That means federal veterans benefits like VA disability, compensation and pension, survivors benefits, healthcare benefits, burial benefits, education benefits, employment benefits, etc. But they can also help with state and local veterans benefits as well. Veteran service officers are trained and accredited by the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, so we train them at the state level and their organizations provide training, but they do have to be accredited through the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs and to provide services to veterans, and they provide that service for free of charge. Veteran service officers never ask for any money to provide that service. Most of those services are funded through those nonprofit organizations, or they're publicly funded with county and tribal and state resources. So many veteran service officers can also work for a public entity such as a tribal government, a county government, or a state veteran agency like the Washington Department of Veterans Affairs. So in Washington, we have multiple ways of delivering veteran service officer services. There is no one right way or best way to do it. There's 4 good ways to do it. We partner with county governments, we partner with tribal governments, we partner with the nonprofit veteran service organizations, some of the organizations I mentioned like the American Legion and the Veterans of Foreign Wars. But we also have a number of what we call our state service officers, which are WDVA employees that also provide VSO services. And those veteran service officers work collaboratively across the state to provide that service. But the nature of their work means they're having some very personal, sometimes difficult conversations with veterans about their health, about their finances, about their family. And that leads to discussions about other needs that the veteran might need assistance with, that family, that household might need assistance with. Whether it's housing security or food security, employment services, education. Sometimes they're just talking about their family vacation. VSO work, you're asking veterans really tough questions about some very personal things. Sometimes that's trauma, sometimes that's their family income. Sometimes that's their experience in the military and some things that are difficult to talk about. So as a result of that work, veteran service officers, they get into everyone's business is maybe the best way of saying it. And find that they need to partner with local organizations that provide other types of services that can benefit that veteran and that family and that household. And that's why we're going to talk about the value of collaborating with veteran service officers at a local level. And we have a panel that represents some veteran service officers, but also some local partners that don't necessarily do VSO work, but have also seen the value in collaborating with veteran service officers and veteran service organizations. A little bit about those VA disability benefits that I talk about. So VA disability benefits. I'm an Army veteran, I served in the military. I was a very clumsy paratrooper, right? So I got hurt jumping out of airplanes. Right? Those VA disability benefits, there's two types. There's non-service connected pension, which is a pension for war era lower income veterans or surviving family members. And there's what they call VA service-connected disability compensation, or service-connected disability compensation, oftentimes just compensation, for injuries or illnesses that are caused or aggravated by military service. And those benefits are paid at a given rate, from 0% to 100%. There's 10% increments, and each increment has a certain dollar amount. That's a monthly payment, tax-free. If the veteran is service-connected at 30% or higher, there's also an additional amount for family members or dependents. So collectively, that brings about $3.2 billion with a B, $billion in VA disability payments to Washington State every year. About $3.2 billion, and that's just disability payments. You have all the other programs like VA healthcare expenditures that don't necessarily put money in the veteran's pocket, but it saves them a lot of money and improves their access to VA healthcare and reduces their healthcare costs. There's employment benefits, there's education benefits, there's home loan guarantees, and there's even state and local benefits, whether it's reductions in state parks or the local county veterans assistance funds that we're going to talk more about. I've been involved with this work for a few years. So back in 2008, 2009, I started tracking the percent of veterans that were receiving VA disability benefits, either compensation or pension. There's only about 3,000 veterans in Washington State that receive pension. So we're really, even if you combine those numbers, it doesn't change the percentage. So in Washington State, in 2009, there was probably about 13 or 14% of veterans in the state receiving VA disability. That was on par with the national average. Today, there's 31, maybe 32% of veterans in the nation and in our state. Our state is on par with the national average receiving VA disability benefits. So when you graph that, it goes one way, up and to the right. And the percentage of veterans receiving VA disability benefits has gone one direction for as long as I've been tracking it. And that's because of a number of things. One, you have an aging veterans population, the drafts in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. Those veterans are aging. You have the global war on terrorism and deployments, multiple deployments in Iraq or Afghanistan over those 20 plus years. And then there were some key case law that was established, like the Niemer case for the U.S. Supreme Court. That should be cases plural. There are multiple cases where the U.S. Supreme Court that determined that they expanded eligibility for certain veterans benefits because of exposure to herbicides like Agent Orange and other types of environmental exposures. And then there was the PACT Act, and I want to make sure I get the name right, which is the Sergeant First Class Heath Robinson honoring our promise to address Comprehensive Toxics Act of 2022. Was federal legislation that expanded eligibility for VA disability benefits for a lot of veterans. And in the 3 years since that law has passed, we've actually seen the number of VA disability claims that our service officers do in our network, the partners that we partner with, have doubled in the 3 years since that law has passed. And that's going to sustain for a while, because those veterans that might not have a presumptive condition that's covered under the PACT Act today, but as they age, those conditions might be diagnosed, and the veteran might be facing one of those conditions. So we know that in the years ahead, we need to continue the good work and the effort that we put around providing veteran service officer services to make sure that veterans and families and survivors get access to those benefits that they're entitled to. That they get access to VA healthcare benefits, because of course once they're service connected, their eligibility and their priority for VA healthcare goes up. And they get their children and their survivors have access to benefits where that's applicable as well, whether it's education benefits or in some cases survivors benefits. I can't say enough about what that does for the family household, but you guys get it. It's economic security. It's veterans turn around and spend that money, right? They pay the rent, they buy food, they buy groceries. They spend that money on the cost of living, and that money is, recycled and becomes part of our economy. So from a certain perspective, that's also an economic development, economic opportunity for our communities. And many partners, counties, Indian tribes themselves have seen that and have decided to invest their own local taxpayer dollars in VSO services because they see that return on investment. It's not just the right thing to do, and it is the right thing to do, but they also see that return on investment in the improvements in the quality of life and the access and health outcomes of those veterans. Okay, so now you all know what VSOs do. What I want to do is talk a little bit about collaboration with VSO, veteran service organizations, in collaboration with other types of organizations that support veterans, and we have a good sample up here. We always want to have a hometown advantage. Wherever we go around the state, we do serving those who serve. We try to get a hometown advantage to our local partners, and in this case, Yakima County. So Ray Mendez is a volunteer to go first and is going to help us kind of frame the discussion. But before we get into Ray's discussion, I would like to have the panel members introduce themselves. And I'm going to follow my own rules about using the mic. If you would just introduce yourself, maybe the title and the organization you work for, that's good to start. And then we'll have Ray go through his brief discussion, and we'll come back and talk more about collaboration. So just name, title, and maybe the organization you work for.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Vincent McDonald. I am the program manager for the Colville Confederated Tribes Veterans Resource Program. I have been invited to participate with this panel today. The logic behind that invitation is yet to be brought to my attention, but I would like to say, I hope I'm in the room, friends, colleagues that will lead me kindly down this path, as this is my first experience doing this. But primarily my job with the Colville Tribes, and we just signed our MOA, and thank you, David.
Thank you.
And with that task and responsibility of signing that MOA, our participation here, and like many other WDVA events, is to signify and support that partnership with the Washington Department of Veteran Affairs, and through the process of training and education, bring our program into the light so that we can better serve not only the tribal veterans on the Colville Reservation, but all the veterans in the surrounding communities, all the veterans we meet when we're out on travel or training, and basically partner up with everybody in this room and partner up with everybody from VA across the country. Because, sure, we have our areas of responsibility, but when it comes to working this type of work, whenever and wherever you find a veteran, you gotta get them plugged in. You find those partners, whether you're on travel in Hawaii or Texas or wherever, it's our job to make that welcoming home event for those veterans and bringing them to the light so they can have the services and benefits that they deserve and earn. So I stumbled into this work after retiring from another position, and I questioned it, but it's the sense of accomplishment after you have helped somebody that feels like they've been abandoned. They've been left alone and have nowhere to go, and then you talk to them, let them understand and see that this group of Veteran Affairs and the operation they do, what it means to them after all the misconception that they've either decided on their own or been brought to them, that this group of people truly cares about the veterans. And sure, they'll run into one or two bad, but out of the whole, I'm grateful that I work with all of you, because you do represent that welcoming bunch that is just dedicated to serving those who serve. Thank you for your time.
My name is Ray Hernandez. I'm the program manager for Yakima County Veterans Program.
Can I be lazy? I'm older than dirt and have bad knees. I'm Annie DeAndrea. I am the Transition Assistance Specialist for the Washington National Guard.
I'm Terrell Tucker Flood, I'm the Claims Quality Assurance Manager from okay.
I'm Wendy Chang, can you hear me?
No.
Hi, I'm Wendy Chang. Sorry. I'm a County Veteran Service Officer in Walla Walla County, and my office is housed in the County Health Department.
Hi, everybody. My name is Chelsea Leffers, and I'm the director at the Kittitas County Public Health Department. And similar to Wendy, we house our county's veterans program.
Hello all, my name is Amanda Delp. I am with the Yakima Housing Authority. I oversee our Housing Choice Voucher Section 8 program, and we partner with the local VA for HUD VASH vouchers.
Terrific. Round of applause for our panelists. Thank you. Vincent, I like how you like to pretend like you don't know why you're here, but then you give such a heartfelt speech that, you know, before we even get into the questions, we're, you know. All right, so like I said, Hometown Advantage, we're going to turn it over to Ray Menendez to talk a little bit more about the Yakima County Veterans Program. Ray does have some slides, and these slides are intended to kind of give you a preview. Foreshadowing would be the term in the media these days of what the questions are going to be for the rest of the panel, okay? So Ray, go right ahead, and I'll drive your slides for you.
Okay. Good afternoon. So, my name is Ray Hernandez, Program Manager for Yakima County Veterans Program. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. We're all new Marines in here. There we go. Army's been too loud out there, so we gotta step up. Learning objectives for today. So if you were in the ESD class yesterday, this is very similar, just going over our programs and what we do and how we help out. So identify the core services support offered by Yakima County Veterans Program, understand the eligibility criteria, application process for veteran seeking services, and recognize the importance of community partnerships in supporting veterans. Small introduction, purpose, overview of what we do in Yakima County, and mission to assist veterans with essential services and benefits. Small little picture, Yakima County population, 258,523. Approximately 11,000 veterans, about 5% of the total population. So here's where we get into everything, kind of the meat and potatoes of our program. Services offered. What we do in our office, we're going to provide mostly financial assistance through the Veterans Relief Fund. We're going to have, for basic emergency needs, so food, utilities, rental assistance, transportation assistance, and we also help out with burial assistance for the veteran, the spouse, and or children under the age of 18. We have a program in our office, Veterans Incarcerated Program. What we do is I have a direct line to the county jail, the kite, in a kite process. So if a veteran is in the jail who identified as a veteran, they can kite me through a computer system, and it's going to let me know. They're going to ask me questions. I'm going to meet with them, refer them to the VJO, or just kind of assess their needs based off of what they're telling me: housing needs, substance abuse needs, mental health, and kind of have that plan ready to go for when they're released. You know, whether I refer them to another agency or we come help them ourselves. Angel Mendoza is at the very end. He's our outreach specialist for homeless veterans. We're gonna kind of identify the veterans experiencing homelessness and coordinate housing, whether it's through SSVF, VA, HUD, VASH, or any other services out there. We'll case manage the veterans, you know, through the emergency needs, through benefit navigation. You know, let's just face it, the federal VA is kind of difficult to navigate, so they're gonna contact us and we're gonna help them navigate that process. One of the biggest things that I like to take pride is we're point of entry. So we're not just there for the homelessness or low income. It doesn't matter how much you make or what you are in life. you're more than welcome to call our office or come into the office, and we're gonna assist you on whatever it is that you need. I may not be able to provide the assistance per se, but I'm gonna refer you to somebody who can. One of the biggest things that I kind of ingrain in the staff is there should never be a phone call or a veteran where you tell them we don't do that here, right? It's always, hey, let me figure it out for you, let me help you out, let me try to get you at least to the next step. Next slide, please. Some of the eligibility requirements, you know, it's basic RCW, so you must be a U.S. Military veteran in accordance with the RCW 73.08.005. Must reside in Yakima County, must have a qualifying discharge in accordance with 73.04.005. There's a few updates this year in June, I believe they took place, so if you're not familiar, there's RCW, you should check them out. And for us, basic state is 150% of federal poverty level. For us, our county commissioners raised it to 200%, so we're able to help a little bit more. I believe for a single adult it's 2,500 or 2,653, maybe around there. How to apply? Just walk in your office. You're not able to walk in, we will go to you. You know, there should be no need here in Yakima County where a veteran is struggling to get to our office. Give us a call, and then we're going to go to you. We're going to figure out an establishment where we can meet. We utilize the Yakima Nation, the Warriors Association, their building quite a bit. You know, it's kind of a half point between the Lower Valley and here in Yakima. We're just meeting there top of it, so that's been helping out. Chuck Austin Place has been great by allowing us to use some of their facilities to write vouchers to the residents. If you guys don't know, Chuck Austin Place is a 41-unit veteran-only housing establishment here in Yakima County that was put up 2021. Kimberly is, yeah, 2021. So it's been awesome working there. Some of the required documents, you know, DD-214, NGB-22. One of the big things that the VA helped us out with was getting us on squares. So we're able to kind of look at that veteran right away. During COVID, I don't know if you guys tried to submit for DD-214s to National Archives, but it was absolutely crazy. The longest one that took was my grandfather, who I submitted March of 2020, and we received it March of 2021. So, I mean, the reality is, a lot of times we're having to wait on the 214 to provide services, and now we have squares. Granted, squares is not always 100%, but it's a huge upgrade from what we were using. And we're able to see that discharge and time and service and stuff like that to qualify them to get the proper services, whether it's our program, SSVF. You know, one of the big things is that a few programs talked about it yesterday is, I'm gonna look at every veteran based off what they're qualified for. I'm not gonna send them to SSVF if I know that they're gonna not qualify for SSVF. It kind of burns the bridges and burns the trust between what we have. Let's look at other agencies or look at different avenues to go. Go ahead, next slide. So community partnerships. One of the big things we partner with is our local programs, WorkSource, WDBA, the VA, OIC for SSVF. We work with nonprofits as well. One of the big nonprofits we work with is the Yakima Valley Veterans Coalition. And other organizations like the VFW and American Legion. So we're always trying to at least step in there, kind of let them know we're still alive. They refer us veterans, and it goes back and forth. The Yakima Vet Center is another community partner we work with quite a bit. You know, I'm not a counselor. I have no anything. If anybody comes in and mental health needs, you know, you're going to the Vet Center. Even if I know they're not a combat veteran, because the Vet Center is at least going to let them know a different avenue through the CBOC or whatever, and they're going to have that VA relationship with them. Altogether, those partnerships that I mentioned, another big one is the Yakima Nation. So prior to all of us, there's a lot of animosity between government and tribal relationships. So one of the big things when I took over, I'm from Wapato, so I lived right outside the Yakima Reservation, or well, within the borders of the Yakima Reservation. So just trying to build that trust with government, not just for the managers or the Yakima Nation employees, but for the Yakima Nation members themselves. You know, a lot of times they don't trust working with any kind of government, You know, if I pay a bill, you're gonna take my house, or any kind of, I've heard some crazy things out there, but they believe it's true, and we have to just kind of break down those barriers. Next slide, please. So, what we do is we have either weekly or monthly meetings that we're trying to get back to. We called it Central Washington Veteran Task Force, and with some changes, it's kind of went away, but there's some ideas that are trying to bring it back. So we have a monthly agency collaboration that's gonna have reps from most of these agencies, either to present on what they do or just to have kind of a staffing of a veteran in need or any kind of sort of discussion. You know, they're again partnering with the tribal government, co-hosting outreach events. One of the big things that we do in Yakima County is we partner with the Yakima Valley Veterans Coalition, and we help plan and execute the stand down here in Yakima. And it turns out to be a significant event. We don't just focus on homeless, we focus on all veterans of all walks of life, and we invite them just to have that one day of at the very least, you know, camaraderie. We serve close to 1,000 veterans, and you can add a few hundred more family members. And we invite usually around over 100 service providers that we fill the Sundom up with. So if you're a service provider in here and you want to participate here in Yakima, just let me know and we'll get you taken care of. We have a housing meeting every week where not only the housing specialist, which is SSVF or VA HUD attend to, will attend employment or work source reps from the plan attend. The VA Vet Center will attend. And just because everything kind of mends together, you know, say a veteran's homeless and they're trying to get out of there, they became homeless because they lost their job. You know, we have an employment rep who attends and tries to get them back on that track. Shared case management is a big one. You know, we're always referring people back and forth, and we're discussing where they're at in your program or where they're at in their program to try to figure out how to best case manage the veteran and kind of get them to where they need to go. Resource sharing. One of the big things we have is email groups. You know, I know I've done it, so we'll get a flyer and a good event for veteran specific. I'll send it out to all the providers here in Yakima. One of the big things we had recently was a VA surge event for homeless veterans. We got the homeless executive, you know, Yakima County, which are mostly non-veteran specific organizations. We got all of them involved, the Homeless Coalition, the Homeless Network. Not necessarily that they're gonna be there, but we need to get the word out to everybody, right? So the best thing in the world is email nowadays. Go ahead, next slide, please. So expanding the impact and partnering beyond veteran-specific agencies. We're all providers here in one way, let's just face it. We know some providers, they stick to, I can do everything for them. And a lot doesn't get done. You know, we've all known that person. You know, I want them in my program only, and they're not getting anywhere. Well, we need to broaden the resource pool with these services, you know, whether it's housing, food banks, behavioral health. If they can't get into the vet center, why can't they go to comprehensive mental health here in Yakima and get faster services? So one of the big things is to, you know, break that silo mentality. You know, let's just start working together and figure out how we're gonna provide for that veteran, but not just us. You know, if I need a warm hand off to someone else, then that's gonna be better. You know, faster response time. Non-veteran specific agencies are gonna probably, for medical purposes, get them faster in the medical clinic compared to the VA. Now, it's not a bad thing, I'm not knocking the VA, but that's just the reality of it. If you call the CBOC right now, it's not an urgent care clinic. Yakima Neighborhood Health can possibly get you in that same day for something that they need. So we're trying to look outside the box to try to navigate these different avenues when it comes to that. You know, and then also the whole family support. If they're in my program, we're at 200% of the federal poverty level. And one of the reasons why we did that is because we mirror DSHS. So if you're utilizing us for any kind of benefits, whether it's vouchers or anything that you're qualified for, why are you not getting assistance from DSHS as well? Whether it's with Apple Health, you know, the medical, EBT, you know, that's huge. I could only provide so much, EBT can cover the rest, and then, you know, at least you're stable enough on the food part for a little, some time until you get the job. And then creative solutions, you know, be that advocate to the landlord if needed. You know, I know OIC, it does wonderful at being that middleman between the tenant and landlord, trying to provide incentives and all that to get them in. And then, like I said, breaking that silo mentality. You know, we're all in this together. We all serve the veteran. Let's do what we can. Let's not stick to veteran-specific providers. Let's just look at your area in general and figure out and meet everybody within the area. And your task force should not include just veteran-specific providers. It should invite everybody within. You know, we work with the Housing Authority, Yakima Neighborhood Health, OIC, Comprehensive, multiple agencies, Triumph. And next slide. And if you have any questions or want to chat later, that's my information. And Angel Mendoza is here at the very end. That's the information. And I don't know if you want to do questions now or wait for.
We'll do the other panel members. We'll come back to questions.
So thank you guys for listening. Appreciate it.
Great, thank you. Like I said earlier, your discussion about collaboration here in Yakima Valley is kind of foreshadow the rest of the discussion. And thank you for setting that up for us and talking about what the Yakima County Veterans Program is doing. At this point, what I'd like to do is go through the rest of the panel members and have them briefly talk about what their organizations do, the types of services that they provide, and maybe more specifically, you know, how they support veterans. Now, these organizations, they might provide broader services than just veteran services. We do want to hear about those other services, but you know, we want to end on the veterans topic. So why don't we send the microphone down to Amanda at the opposite end? Because one of the exciting collaborations that Ray talked about here in Yakima Valley is with the Yakima Housing Authority and the Chuck Austin place, which I'm going to let Amanda talk about, not me. But one of the awesome things about that collaboration is that they also house veteran service officers from the American Legion and VFW. Some of those veteran service organizations that can provide accredited veteran service officers for all the reasons we talked about. So with that said, go right ahead.
Well, a lot of the information has already been shared, thank you. But as they had mentioned, Chuck Austin Place is a first for us of veteran housing and also a housing first model that we had. If anybody's unfamiliar with housing first, we understand the mental problems and the drug addictions are possibilities, reasons why they're homeless. So all of that is addressed after they get housed. It is a 41 unit complex, and it is turned into a community. We have an amazing resident services specialist back there in the corner, Kimberly, who has organized and put together so many events, so many things that I don't even know, unfortunately, because she's not my department, but I hear and I see the posts, all the things that she is doing with the veterans, and we do partner with Yakima Neighborhood Health. They have a dental facility there, and so individuals can receive some types of services with Yakima Neighborhood Health Services there. They do not have to be housed, they just obviously have to be a veteran. We also have an amazing project manager, Mike, I think she's over there. So she is just now getting her feet wet in the process of housing individuals, but we have established a good process now. We do collaborate with our local VA for referrals. They give us the individuals, and if we cannot house them through our other program, which is HUD-VASH Section 8 voucher program, they are housed at our Chuck Austin Place. Transitioning into the HUD-VASH, which is what I oversee, my department. Right now we do have 113 vouchers set specifically aside for veterans. More than, I think we're close to about 90% of those vouchers being utilized. We meet regularly with our VA to get updates and our goal obviously is to keep individuals housed. So if we hear of anything that could possibly lead to an eviction, we share that information with the case manager. Our expectation of the veteran on a HUD-VASH program is to continue to receive case management. The purpose is to get situated and ready to live on their own without needing services and not at risk later down the road of becoming homeless again. I think that is the gist of what we do there.
We're gonna go in no particular order, so we'll pass the mic back on down this way and go right ahead, thank you. Oh, no, you, go ahead. Yeah. Sorry.
Sorry, that was scary. As I said earlier, I am the Kittitas County Public Health Department, and we house our county's veterans program. We are just about to celebrate our 2-year anniversary with our program, which is very, very exciting for us. Previously, our program in Kittitas County was operated by a small but mighty group of volunteers, and after quite a lot of work with our county's Veterans Advisory Board, due to their advocacy, and our work with our local elected officials, we were able to move the program so that we could operate it and provide that administrative backbone for the program, and actually be able to hire staff, which Timothy is in the back, yay! So we were able to hire our very first paid veteran service officer, which we just were over the moon to be able to provide for our community. And then at just about the same time, we had an opportunity to partner with the WDBA and house a state veteran service officer. Eddie is back there also, yay! So our county went from a really great group of volunteers bringing in veteran service officers from other areas and spending their extra time with us, to being able to have 2 paid, stable veteran service officers in our program. So we're thrilled to have brought that service to our community. We also offer vouchers to our veterans, so primarily food vouchers and gas vouchers. And then I think one of the really big successes of our program is really that opportunity for relationship building with our community. So our veteran service officers are out in the community, they're working with our local partners, and they're working with our individual veterans to build that trust, to build those relationships, and do a lot of that resource navigation, very similar to the presentation earlier. So we don't want to say, no, we don't do that. We want to say, let's help you find the place that does do that. And we're a small county, we don't have a ton of resources, we don't have a ton of services, but you better believe that our folks know inside out what services we do have, and they're out there every day making those connections for folks, providing those warm handoffs, and really doing their best to make sure that our Kittitas County veterans are served. We're excited to be looking at new opportunities for expansion. We will have our first Veterans Resource Fair in the county next year in April, so our staff is working hard on that and bringing together our partners. So we have some wonderful partners. We're very fortunate to have Central Washington University in our community, and they've been a wonderful partner. We partner with our housing folks. Hope Source is our SSVF operator in Kittitas County. We partner with our food programs. It really is a small group, but they do amazing, wonderful work, and we are looking at opportunities to expand that work and to meet more needs in our community. And public health, we're all about filling gaps in services wherever we can kind of wiggle our way in and do something for folks. So that's really the attitude that our staff are taking with us, and they're doing great. I'm so glad they're here today.
Hi, I'm Wendy Chang. I'm a County Veteran Service Officer. So what I do in Walla Walla, what I do is pretty much what Ray just described on the slides. But I don't have any staff. I'm it in Walla Walla. So everything is on a smaller scale, and I try to help every veteran out there who needs help. So we do meet weekly called the by name list case conferencing meeting with SSVF, Court, which is a VA grant per diem program. Work Source is also involved in that meeting. Some homeless shelter staff, and also the EMT and nurse navigators of the fire department. we meet weekly so that we can case conference. And then also I try to organize the annual stand down every year. Again, I don't have any staff, so I really count on community partners. So on a much smaller scale, we only have 30 vendors, 30 plus vendors at the Walla stand down. And I think that that's a good way to connect with other community partners and then build new relationships and find new partners that can help veterans in Walla County. Sorry, I have to look at my notes. Because we have a state penitentiary in Walla, I also have to work with the Department of Corrections and also the VA reentry specialist for the veterans that are incarcerated and then coming back and re-entering into the community. So I try to do more than what I can do, pretty much. So I know that many veterans are not covered by dental coverage, so I try to organize an annual dental veterans clinic for veterans that need help with dental procedures, because they're not covered unless they're 100% service connected. So what I try to do is to do a lot of outreach, like I do 2 times a month, going to the bus depot and local church and then the Salvation Army to see if I can find any veterans in town that are not being connected to the VA or to any services in town. So I can't stress enough the importance of just networking, you know, doing more outreach in the community. I don't know if you want me to talk about the barriers yet, or is that the next question? So what I find the barriers are with working with community partners is that they all have like a very high staff turnover rate, and then the new person may not know that you exist or know any veterans resources in town. So that's a big barrier for me in Walla anyways. And also sometimes they don't understand that the Veterans Relief Fund cannot be counted on all the time if the veteran, you know, does not qualify for the program, because we do have requirements and it's taxpayers' money and we're accountable to taxpayers. So when we say no, they're like, well, you said you're Veterans Relief Fund, why can't you help veterans? So those are the barriers that I see involved. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tucker Flood. I'm from Washington Department of Veteran Affairs. If you see me on anything official, it'll read Terrell Flood and might be very confused, but I am the same person. I don't actually do direct service provision in a lot of the same way. I kind of serve as a lever for our claims program across the state. I provide the operational support and development training for all of our state county service officers, our county veteran service officers, tribal veteran service officers under Washington Department of Veteran Affairs power of attorney. So when you have different nonprofit organizations or state organizations, those are called powers of attorney that work with the VA. Washington Department of Veteran Affairs is one of those. So we have approximately 80 service officers across the state that do that work. So I manage training and support for that. So service officers like Wendy, like Tim and Ed. And as Steve mentioned, there's a couple different models. So we have our direct service officers that are our employees, like Ed, who works directly for me but does out of Kittitas office. And then we have county employees like Wendy or Tim, who are directly employed by their respective counties but work under WDVA's power of attorney. They're not my employees, but I do support them as much as I can, both in training and engaging veteran service officer support, case consultation, that kind of thing, as well as also trying to help that community development part, engaging with different partners, kind of hearing and serving as that network part when I am getting information across the state for gaps in services, different people that are trying to provide different supports or different urgent other points, that kind of thing. And then similarly for tribal veteran service officers, those are called tribal employees that are posted by those tribes that have memorandums of agreement with us. I provide similar support. I also do the same operational support for the nonprofit contracts that we have for the 5 nonprofits that we work with, which are the Vietnam Veterans of America, Veterans of Foreign Wars, American Legion, African American PTSD veterans, and National American Bloc veterans. If I got any of those wrong, please forgive me. Just trying to rattle them off the top of my head. In general, I don't do a lot of direct service officer work because if you're working with me, you really wish you weren't. So something has gone very, very wrong because I do a lot of liaison directing with the VA across our power of attorney overall. But rather than kind of providing those services or a lot of the services people here do directly, I kind of middleman it and find out ways that we can collaborate and connect across the state. I try and be that synergy point of working smarter, not harder, and seeing where we've got this piece over here that can leverage into that piece over there and buoy this up. And that's one of the real benefits that I find for our state service officers that are posted in those locations. Often they can kind of be that regional spillover, where once you've got an instance of a given service officer in a county that's really totally slammed, we can have somebody kind of buoy them up for a little bit over this spot, or shift over here for when the stand down is coming up and have a little bit of additional assistance, those kind of pieces. So that's kind of a lot of where I come into play, is kind of making sure and trying to build a claims network as opposed to just individual claims actors across the state. Because one of the problems that you run into a lot of times for veteran service officer work, it's kind of getting thrown to the wolves. When you get posted up in Asokan County or Pacific County and they tell you to go play VSO, you don't have a lot of support other than being able to call our office or being able to call whoever you might happen to know is a VSO. So as much as we can, we try to be that lifeline, trying to be that connection point outside of there to organizations, other resources when we hear about them. So for the record, if you're trying to get in touch with VSOs or got something that you'd like to offer at Ross, let me know, because I'm more than happy to get you in touch with them.
Don't forget, you're our VA translator too.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I also translate VA to human.
Wow, that's quite the accomplishment. So I'm Annie D'Andrea. Again, I'm with the Washington National Guard. I'm part of the Joint Services Support Program, which is an amazing, one-stop service center for veterans, National Guard, reserves, veteran status doesn't matter to us. We really my role in all of this is I am the VA benefits advisor. So I make sure that they have every bit of information, processing help, everything they need to get access to the benefits from the VA themselves. We are the only National Guard in the nation that has a need. Nobody else has somebody doing claims processing, doing healthcare admissions, and then doing everything else that I do as far as any of the programs to include TRICARE, and then even delve a little into Social Security if I have to, kind of thing. I can tell you that it can be very difficult getting a National Guard claim through the VA. They do not understand the National Guard. I'm not sure the National Guard sometimes understands the National Guard. It's really difficult when you're 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year, trying to prove that the military broke you. And it's one of the most difficult things we do. I can tell you, absolutely, my hardest claim I ever did was my own husband. You should never do your husband's claim, ever. It took me 6.5 years to get that man service connected, 6.5 years. The only thing that to my, whatever you like to call it, is that I'm a bulldog, and when I know I'm right, I'm not giving up. So he got 6.5 years of back pay in the process of waiting for his claim to be approved. I'm of the motto, everything can be fixed if you give it enough time. And you hang in there, you don't let them off the hook. So, absolutely, but it can be a challenge. The VA does not understand Title 32 service. The National Guard is the only one that has that status. So they really don't get that. And claims have to be done in a certain manner when it comes to the Guard. They have to be, medical records have to go into the claim. And somebody has to be reviewing medical records to determine that everything they need for the claim is in those records. It cannot be just to let the VA take care of this, put whatever in for a claim, and hope to God the VA can find those records. So that's part of the problem. What a lot of people don't know, these medical files, from anybody that served prior to 2004, their medical files are sitting in a big Connex at Camp Murray, and nobody has any clue what's in there and where they're at. Now, their personnel files are sitting in our state archives. Those can be accessed within an hour, but medical cannot. And what's in there is very, very slight. But those records go back to 1890. So huge piles of records out there. So, but I have access to those records should anybody need those kind of things. But it's kind of the big thing. This is the kind of thing that I see that comes into my office. Veterans come in, National Guard comes in very upset. Out of VSO, he said, "Come in, sit down, tell me everything that's wrong with you." The VSO put him in for 31 conditions. Okay, when I had a chance, when he finally came to me and I sat down with him, he was entitled to 3. Okay, so first off, as taxpayers, we paid for 28 exams he was never entitled for. It's not a sit down, tell me everything that's wrong, because they're not entitled. It's only what happened on duty. And then again, it's only what you can prove happened on duty. You know? And I can tell you, we're so thrilled with the PACT Act, because that has been the best thing that's ever happened to the National Guard for this process. Okay. And I would love to tell you that I am a VA subject matter expert. I really kind of believe they don't exist, that they're kind of like Bigfoot. They have been spotted, but nobody can confirm their existence. But we really do work hard to make these things, try to get as much of that knowledge base as I can. And probably the only thing that I really do come close at, and that is how to serve in the Guard and collect VA comp. Because you can't even call the 800 number and get the right answer on that either. So I get calls from all over the nation. I got my first Space Force call, so now I get everywhere. See? So they were out in DC, I got a call, and then they do exist. I know one does, I can tell you, that's it. So that's it. But seriously, if it's done right, things go well, I can say absolutely. I do not see the big VA as monsters who don't want to approve everything because they're trying to save money. I see them as they don't have what they need to say yes. Sometimes it is a matter of they don't see that they have what they need to say yes. But I think for the most part, of those that I've talked to, they really do care. But the Guard, again, is a difficult animal because we have so many statuses and so many things, and then state active duty doesn't count, federal technician time. You can wear the uniform 5 days a week during the week, and it doesn't count for anything with the VA. So it can be very complicated. But I'm really, really blessed that I've had the right training. Seattle VA has been instrumental in training me for the last 18 years on how to do this. So I'm totally blessed and grateful to them for making me functional, I guess is the word. But as far as the joint services support, we have people strategically in every county, basically can reach out to every county in the state. When we pulled from the 81st Brigade, 2,600 members went in 2008 and 9. See, you can't go anywhere without running into a brigade. But we pulled from every county. There was no counties that we didn't grab somebody from to send them to Iraq in 08. So that's why it is so important that we have that statewide touch and that we can get to everybody. And that's why we rely so heavily on partners with all of you too. Because there's sometimes where we just can't. I mean, it's Friday at 5 o'clock and we just cannot get to them as easily as we'd like as a thing. But there is a lot of services now that we offer that we can do to help and support, especially our family programs office who does resource and referral. And they also help with short-term grant programs. So they got the electricity shut-off notice. They can help try to get a grant that would help pay for to keep the lights on, kind of a situation. So they're amazing at that, what they do. So I think that's about it. Explains everything that we do. Thank you.
Really quick, I know you heard me talk about it. There's two partnerships that I did miss, and I'm just thinking of whenever we were talking is, one is our sister counties, right? So there's emails through Tim and I, through Eddie, through Clickitat County, Ben Franklin. So just keeping them involved because people just like to cross that magic line every once in a while. Another one is our secondary schools. So we have Perry Tech and YUCA who are constantly referring veterans to our program that are in that school setting that may not understand or know the benefits that are out there for the veteran, or just they're their school, they go to their school veteran rep and that's their first line of, hey, I'm going through this right now. I don't know who to go to, I don't know what to do, so I just wanted to name those two as well.
We still don't know why he's here.
I have a question for you, Annie.
Cool.
We're gonna go back to questions. Let's let our panel members speak because we want to capture the questions on the mic too, so that the video picks them up.
I'm not really sure what I haven't covered yet, but we'll go ahead. Again, my name is Vincent McDonald, and I'm the program manager for the Caldwell Tribes Veterans Resource Program. And we kind of had a discussion a while back that the resource program would be considered more so a benefits broker agency. Our job really is to find all of those benefits, both either WDVA, VA, local county resources, tribal resources, state resources, federal resources, and really make the programs that have been created, put them to task and put them to work. And not to say to take some of that burden off of VA and everything that they can and do provide for veterans, both at a state level and national level, but the resource programs, they identify all these other programs that are state funded, county funded, grant funded, and it really comes down to that principal mission serving veterans. There's nothing in there that says, I have to get them to a VA facility. And if there are other programs out there, and these kind of platforms right here are perfect for that because we get to meet other agencies and organizations outside the traditional VA circle and shake hands, and they'll say, this is what we do. Okay, I got your card. So when a veteran comes in and has that unique problem, and you know, we talk about VA and the timeline sometimes it comes to achieving the goals for benefits or services or medical support or anything like that. If we have the availability of other programs, other benefits, and other agencies, we could actually achieve the same goal of meeting that veteran's basic needs, either through housing or medical help or mental health through independent agencies. You know, that's where my job is really exciting. Because a lot of veterans, they look at VA as this whole agency that's supposed to handle all of their needs. And sometimes that's not necessarily possible, but other times, through the investigation of needing people, we don't have to just depend on VA. There are a lot of other agencies out there that are just waiting and just willing to help. And we can provide those services to these veterans through other means and pathways. So I forgot to share that earlier because a lot of the other panel members shared that, and I said, I do that too. So I just wanted to share that also. And then the other one, I also am a veteran of the United States Army, 1991 to 1995. Medical job. He said, you want to stay in or do you want a bunch of money and get out? I said, I will take door number 2. And so I got my compensation early, and now I get to share moments like this with all of you.
Thank you, Vincent. This is a really amazing discussion because over the years we've done this panel, we focused a lot on best practices for veteran service officers, and we had veteran services officers talking to other veteran service officers. While that's valuable, there's a lot of peer support in learning that happens there. We realized the discussion from the audience in the room was just as valuable. There were so many other types of organizations. So the panel was meant to represent that in a way. We have other types of veteran service providers, other types of organizations up here to talk about the value of collaboration. We also have you all in the room. So we are going to move to some questions. I just want to hit one or two points before we get to audience participation. And that is veteran service officers. We talked about the 4 different ways that we deliver VSO services in Washington State. There's not one right way to do it. They all work. We have some state veteran service officers, meaning Washington State Department of Veterans Affairs employees that do that work. We have the nonprofit veteran service organizations, groups like the American Legion, the VFW, the Disabled American Veterans. Those organizations, some of them have been around over 100 years, and they do a tremendous amount of work related to VSO work, in addition to the post and chapters and giving back to their communities around the state. And they're a huge part of this network and this model as well. We talked about county veteran service officers. And in Washington State, we have 39 counties, and they all have a county veterans assistance fund and to some extent a county veterans program. Not all of them necessarily have full-time staff, but they have some local dollars from the veterans levy. But there's no mandate for counties to provide VSO services. It's optional. So if we go back not too long ago in time, just 2011, we had 0 counties in the state delivering VSO services. But what we heard is that we need to find ways to get more VSOs deployed in communities across the state. And I'd like to give credit where credit was due. Okanagan County, who's here in the room, one of our Okanagan County service officers, was the first county in the state that said, you know what, we're going to find a way to do this. We're going to hire a part-time VSO. We're going to pay for it with our Veterans Assistance Fund or some local tax dollars we have. WDVA, you all got to help us figure this out because we can't do it on our own. And we read the federal regulations and it said that you had some authority to help us here, so help us here. And next thing you know, Chelan County's doing it, and then Spokane County, and then Douglas County, and today we have 23 counties that employ VSOs. Some of those counties also serve their neighbors, or they partner with their neighbors to share that cost, serving 28 of those 39 counties, right? So you probably have heard me say this joke before. I like to joke with my bosses that when we have 39 counties, I know I can retire, right? That's the legacy that I'm going out on. But what happened in the meantime, and this is really important, is Indian tribes. So, back in 2011, 2012, tribal veterans representatives were always there behind the scenes helping veterans and families in Indian country connect with these benefits. They didn't have that title or veteran service officer. They didn't have that accreditation from the VA, but they were doing the work. And they were partners in the communities as well. And there was a discussion around the nation coming from Indian tribes all over the country about how do we get tribal veteran representatives, how do we get them accredited as veteran service officers so that they can provide official VSO support and have some of the same tools and training that veteran service officers from nonprofit states and counties have. So there was an effort across the nation, and the federal regulations were changed in 2017 due to a lot of work, primarily from Indian tribes, the National Congress of American Indians, and in some cases nonprofits and state veteran agencies were supporting that effort as well because they saw the value in that collaboration. And the federal regulations changed. The VA changed the regulations to say that Indian tribes, first and foremost, should be honored based on their sovereignty and that self-determination and allowed to have their own veteran service officers, tribal veteran service officers. That was the most important part of that regulatory change. The second part was that where they wish to do so, Indian tribes and states may collaborate on VSO services similar to the way that states and counties collaborate. Because even the VA saw the practicality of, hey, states are already doing this, they have a way to collaborate with counties. Maybe some of them want to collaborate with tribes and vice versa. Maybe not, right? It doesn't work everywhere, but in Washington State, we have 29 federally recognized tribes. So immediately we started engaging with tribes about, hey, if you'd like our help in getting your tribal veteran representative accredited as a veteran service officer, we have some in-kind services. We can provide training, accreditation, quality assurance systems, access to the data systems that we use, tools that we use as VSOs, reporting and tracking, and some of those claims are going to be denied, and the veteran's going to want to appeal that claim. So we can also help with representing the appeal. In other words, we're going to do the same things we do with our county VSO partners. And now we have 11 tribes in the state that have tribal veteran service officers, including a few in the room today. So veteran service officers can come from any of these 4 organizations, and there's not one right way to do it. The fact is, we're all on the same team. We're all working for the same outcomes, and we're trying to provide quality services to veterans and their families, and in a way that removes those barriers, removes that bureaucracy, and helps them overcome some of the challenges that they may face. So I wanted to tie that in, like the 4 different types of VSOs that we talked about earlier, tying it back in as to why we have Indian tribes and counties and state organizations all doing similar type of work, nonprofits. But the collaboration with local community partners, whether they're the housing authorities or county nonprofit-based organizations, or even your traditional services through DSHS, like food assistance or Apple Health. I know there's other types of partnerships and collaboration happening too. So I think we will open it up to some questions. I know there's one question for Andy already. We're gonna start there. And the only thing I ask is that we use the mic for questions. We'll leave one mic with the panel to answer questions, and I'll run the other one around the room. Okay, I know you have a question for Andy, so we're going to start there, and I'll work my way through the room. If you have a question, raise your hand. There are plenty of other questions and things that I can prompt the panel to talk about, but right now we want to hear from you guys too. We want your questions.
Hello, Annie, thank you. I have a question. So are you the person that submits the insurance? Do you do the utilization reviews for the claims? Because you're talking about language and needing to have certain language and have the client, share certain pieces to get their, so is that what you do?
So I have to be very careful how I present this because I am a federal technician.
Okay.
So we do have some guidelines, but yes, if you're gonna work with me, the very first thing I do is a 2-hour meeting with you. We're gonna go over every page of your medical file. I'm gonna look what's gonna get you approved and what's gonna confuse the VA. And I know we have somebody here from the big VA, so I apologize in advance for this comment, but somebody told me something brilliant: never let the VA think. Ever. Okay, so everything needs to be clear cut. Here it is, black and white, and that's what my first job is. And then that's meeting number 1. Meeting number 2, when you do all the honey-do list that I'm gonna give you because your record's not right, then we will file a claim, and I'm gonna walk you through the online application. So I'm not filing the claim, they are. I'm going to advise them throughout that process.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that you made that clear because I'm in the substance use disorder field and I've done lots of utilization reviews and trying to get services paid for. And so language is very important, and it changes from, insurance to insurance, or, just kind of what you're saying from, service to another. So thank you.
This was a quick comment on that one. Claim for substance abuse, and because it's a community of different practitioners, claims mean something very, very, very different from insurance and support and like substance abuse in a clinical sense as they do for the VA sense. It's a claims adjudication system that the VA is talking about. But when you're talking about, I used to be a substance abuse counselor. When you're talking about substance abuse claims and the kind of notes that you're talking about, submitting for insurance and that kind of thing, that's completely separate from all things related to BBA claims applications, getting those accepted. They don't really interact in the same way.
But the premise is the same.
Premise can be in the same. Codes have to be correct.
The codes are what they are, and that's its own process, but they don't interact in the same way that you're thinking, and we can talk more about that specifically.
And so then my question for you is, if they have a complaint, is that where they come to you?
Sure.
If you said like a complaint.
From a VBA claim standpoint within WDVA's power of attorney, they would typically go to their service officer that they're working with, because they should be able to help them with their actual claim. They have a lot of information on that.
I think the way of summarizing it, we're talking about applications for federal disability benefits versus claims for reimbursement for healthcare services delivered.
And I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that's a real concern, and that's where I was gonna lead next, is about informed consent, because it sounds like it's so many different things, that not everybody has an informed consent, and everybody has something different.
The governor's truth, I do help with getting reimbursements either through the VA or through TRICARE. So I'm kind of like, I have many hats. And that's kind of the things, working with the National Guard if you have to.
Thank you.
I think, yeah.
My name is Ben. I work for a Native American Veterans Program in Seattle, and as a non-VSO, non-accredited person who wants to help veterans get access to their benefits, what are some common mistakes or wrong information that you hear as a VSO where you're like, who told you that? You know, how did you come? You know, what mess are you cleaning up from non-VSO?
We don't have that kind of time, honey. Look, the God honest truth. There's been I've been in VSO training where the trainer said, don't get records, don't get medical files. Let the VA go get the medical files. In my opinion, that is number one mistake you can make for any claimant. How do you know there's proof in there what they're claiming if you don't have somebody looking at the files? Okay? It used to be when you went to JBLM, they had about a 90% success rate because they were reading the files. Now you come in, they read the outline, they put your claim in, you get 45 minutes start to finish. They're down into the low 70s and even the high 60s now because they're not reading the files. So that is number one. You gotta learn. Look, Google is my best friend. I am not that smart, okay? So this Latin stuff drives me insane. But that's gonna be the thing. You can get on Google, you can decide, and figure out, was this a true diagnosis? Patellofemoral syndrome, other than the VA now has to take it thanks to somebody suing them. Prior to that, though, that's a big fancy Latin word for pain. So it didn't mean anything. And we see that all the time where they use that kind of language. And so somebody's got to be making sure those records are clean. Okay? They'll say probable, could be, rule out. They won't say, okay, this person has knee damage. You know, they just make all these flowery comments, and unfortunately, active duty is notorious for that because they don't want to get people kicked out. So they will make nice flowery little statements and not call it what it is, and it's important to do that. So.
I'm going to pass it to Wendy after this, but really the short version that I'm going to say is get them to a VSO. Don't let them do it themselves. Don't let them pay a VSO to do it, because there are a tremendous number of predatory practices out there. There's so much misinformation. There's so much predatory information out there. Get them to a VSO. If you have to, email me and I'll get them to a VSO. But one way or another, they shouldn't go through it alone, because there is so much bad information out there that's really easily accessible. None of it's easy to find. None of it's easy to go through from start to finish. And anyone trying to do their due diligence will get lost in the sauce and find a lot of ways to get themselves in trouble.
So like Steve said, county VSO, we do everything for free. There's really no reason why a veteran should go to an attorney and pay thousands of dollars to file the claim. And also agree with Annie, I don't trust the VA to request any medical records from your private community provider. I have to see the medical records and I upload everything to the VA, because I don't know whether the community providers will send anything to the VA or whether the VA will request it from the provider. So.
All right, we got some questions in the back. I'm going to work my way back up for it.
Apologies for anybody that's been in a group with me. I'm a peer specialist at the VA in Spokane. A few years ago, several years ago, I had the opportunity to go to Camp Chaparral, and it was just amazing. And the thing that I still remember is the the resources within the community and the culture that treated veterans, for lack of a better word, of heroes. So I was just impressed with that. Vincent, I would love to talk to you after this.
Yeah, thank you for that comment. I know I've been a camp chaperone myself and seen many of service officers go, and it's certainly gone a long way towards helping build bridges in Indian country. We appreciate that. I saw a few questions up here, and then I know there's more in the back too.
Thank you. So a couple questions. First, well, one statement first, because I found out even Vincent didn't know about this. We were talking about it. Are you guys aware of BFET? If anybody in the state of Washington gets an EBT card for food, you can go to a community college for free, pretty much, or work stores. But a lot of my VSOs didn't know this. I have people that are struggling with VRE at the federal level in Seattle, want to strangle them. But we do have, I'm Terry, I work at Cowlitz in DuPont, out of Pierce County, Air Force veteran, Desert Storm, so. In England, drinking Guinness and throwing darts, waiting for casualties that never happened. So I just wanted to share that because a lot of people weren't aware of that. And so each community college has their own list of programs and certifications that they can go to school for. So I just wanted to share that because I heard you say EBT, but I didn't hear anybody say anything. How do you guys do entry? Do you guys have 211 with coordinated entry for housing vouchers? How are you doing that? And then I wanted to know about is funding for that? Our coordinated entry in Pierce County, my veterans call 211, and they get put on a separate veterans list. We have a tiny village at Orting that is, everybody thinks they can just go there because they're veterans, but they have to go through coordinated entry through the Pierce County Housing Authority, and it's really kind of a long system. So I'm just kind of wondering how you guys do here.
So I do have my boss here, so I really have to get this right. It is my understanding that the VA has restrictions on what they can share, so they cannot be a part of coordinated entry. And referrals for HUD bash vouchers have to come through the VA. Good?
Well.
Okay. But no, the coordinated entry is not a part of the HUD bash vouchers at this point, my understanding.
We're working on it.
Yes.
So we were part of the Department of Human Services. So I just had a meeting with Melissa and Esther on Monday, and we are going to start trying to mend the two, because we do have a by name list of the VA that the VA is overseeing, and we want to kind of implement that into coordinated entry. And so we are trying to come full circle here. Well, soon with government is going to be time.
But the by name list is new.
Right.
Explain that, Ray, because
So-
we have not had that in Yakima County.
Right, and so it's been in the works for a while, but like I said, with government, it takes a while. But we just recently started a veterans by name list here in Yakima County, and so far it is going great. We've always had the coordinated entry list that would identify the veterans in HMIS, but that would not necessarily move over to the VA, right? So we'd have to identify. One thing about the VA Squared also is I can go to that HMIS list that the coordinated entry is providing me, and I can verify the veteran status. Just because when you're out in the streets, whether it's talking to a individual experiencing homelessness or during the point in time count, there are some situations where they just say yes to everything. And so in other cases, are you a veteran? Yes. All right, so we look everything up and it comes out to not. So there are multiple in our HMIS system right now. I mean, we're cleaning it up. There are individuals that have veteran status on there that are not veterans. But it takes time to get everything situated.
Hi, my name is Corey, Opportunity Council up in Bellingham, and I work with homeless veterans, mostly eviction prevention, but I work alongside our SSVF and our HUD bash. And it is also a question about the by names list. Our by names list is only our company Opportunity Council and our HUD bash partners because of ROIs. How are you guys able to incorporate the county VSOs, the other agencies and entities, WorkSource, etc. on that list? And the best ways to approach it to
my higher ups that will absolutely be hesitant on it?
So, I can, by name of this in Wawa County, attended by work stores, that are have badged, even the homeless shelter. We all signed a universal ROI that we can all share information.
Is there still a question in the back?
Standing off the floor here. So first of all, Tucker, you mentioned this. Don't feed the claim sharks. If claims consulting organizations, I just wanted to shout this out, please try to keep your clients away from claims consulting organizations. If they say they're gonna consult or advise or assist your clients with them, they're probably gonna exploit your clients. Get them to go to a VSO. Call Tucker. Call our office to please have them report to the Attorney General's office if they've signed a contract, if they've had a discussion. We want to know about these organizations. This is just a PSA. We really want to know.
Can I add to that too?
Please do.
If you all don't know,
A claims agent, these lawyers, these firms that charging, they cannot charge for the first claim.
Yes.
And they are, because I'm getting people coming in and saying they paid $7,000 for their claim.
They're not lawyers.
That's illegal.
They're
Yes,
not lawyers.
That's illegal,
Yeah.
okay, right off the bat. The only thing they're supposed to be doing is charging for appeals.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you hear of that, we need to start reporting these people so we can get them out.
Report them to us. They're not attorneys. They are not accredited advisors or consultants. They're not accredited. They advise. They don't have any accreditation through the VA. Attorneys can only assist with appeals. There is a role for attorneys in the appeal process. There's also free attorneys like Caitlin here at Northwest Justice Project that don't take any money at all. So they do help with initial claims. So those are just comments, not a question. I'm that person.
Thank you. We had comments and good I kind of lost track of the questions here, so please bear with me, be patient, keep your hands up, and I will make my way around the room. Yeah, I think there's one all the way over here.
Good afternoon. My name is Sonny Carden. I'm the Veterans Advocate for the Caldwell Confederated Tribes. I have two bosses here, so I better get this right. All right. I was told, and I'm not very sure, and I would like to get this cleared up by, the panel, that Indian Health Service records are not being able to be processed to you guys. Is that or is that not true? Because I've been told two different things, and when I'm out there talking to my clients, I need to know, because most of my clients are tribal members. Can the Indian Health Services give you guys them records, or was I told false information?
When you say you guys, you might need to be a little bit more specific.
The veteran service officers in any county, any state, anybody.
So
that's what I'm saying, because our program does not just serve the veterans that are Native Americans. Our program serves everyone. Everyone that's a vet and has a DD 214 that proves they're a veteran. Our people, they serve them. We don't just serve Native American veterans or county veterans. We have veterans from out of state. That's how we roll.
Absolutely. So for veteran service officers that work in our power of attorney, speak to. So for instance, if you went to the American Legion, if you went to Veterans of Foreign Wars, they have their own process, they have their own internal softwares or their own systems, how they process records. For WDVA, we use the Tyler Veteran Benefit System, which is a system that we have our own power of attorneys designated section, security, HIPAA sensitive area for. It's all built out for us. It's actually customized a little bit, so we're behind the updates that I kind of like out of it. But outside of that, the only people that have access to that are accredited veteran service officers through the Washington Department of Veteran Affairs. You can upload records to that through your VSS. You can get veteran service officers.
So the Indian Health Service records are available to you.
So they're not available to us. You could provide them to us.
Okay, that's the question I had.
we do not have access to them. We need a release of information signed by the veteran so that the clinic can provide those records, so that we can do what Tucker just talked about, upload them and submit them to the VA.
Okay, that
We do not have
clarifies.
automatic access.
Yeah, that clarifies everything, because, you know, I've been told two different stories, and, you know, sometimes it gets confused, because I've been here for 3 years, and I still don't quite get it.
Sonny, there's a electronic record format.
Let's try to get to more questions in the room as opposed to teaching you all how to be veteran service officers. We'd love to do that, but there's some really good questions in the room. So.
This question's for Andy and Tucker. Two things. So I'm a Southern County VSO, and I have a lot of my National Guard guys that are actually Guard members in Idaho, but they live over here, in Washington. So my question for you is, one, can I reach out to you to try to get help with getting their records from Idaho?
Absolutely.
And then two, because National Guard is kind of one of those.
Boy, that's a good way to say it.
You know, I mean, if you got an LOD or something like that, you know, it's a little easier, but if you don't, it's a little bit more difficult to navigate. And my second question is, do you have, because I'm in the Southern County, if I was to upload that stuff for TVV or anything that I have, does she have access to those?
No, I don't, because I work for the National Guard. I don't have access to any of the systems with the VA, with the state, nothing. So everything I do through the VA website. Everything gets uploaded. I do have access fees, so I can upload records at will. But I can tell you, the VA even sends record requests to our units, and I can tell you absolutely what they're doing with them. They're throwing them in the trash can. Okay, so it's again, I hate to beat the dead horse, it's so important. The member needs to bring the records for upload. It's that simple, but yeah. But no, I don't have anything.
So
I don't
clear
have
across the
anything.
state, if I had a guy that I would like to get him in touch with you, how would they?
Well, the nice thing is I have access to all National Guard records. I have access to their medical files, I have access to the LOD module, and I have access to iTerms. I can get any of their personnel.
Perfect, thank you for that.
Okay, so that I do have.
Okay.
But they gotta be Washington National Guard, or I have to have, it's gonna take me a little longer, but I can go to people in those states and get those records.
That's my.
Because I do a lot with the 88th RC, Army Reserves, because they don't have any support programs. And they're out of Wisconsin, so I've got points of contact with them as well.
Okay, we are at time, and we do have to turn over the room because there's another presentation in 15 minutes. With that said, we have 15 minutes to talk to y'all. So if you have questions for the panel, if you want to hang back and chat with us, please do. We just got to make sure we turn over the room and give people enough time. Thank you very much.